Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Second Sunday Forum for October. Good to see you folks. We are very fortunate today to have Roger Montoya as our speaker. Tell you a little bit about Roger's background. There's a long Wikipedia article, but we won't go through all of that. We'll just go through the short version. Roger's an accomplished multidisciplinary artist, a humanitarian, and a former member of the New Mexico State House of Representatives. In 2019, he was honored internationally as a CNN hero for his nonprofit work at Moving Arts Española in the visionary category for that honor. Since returning to New Mexico in 1989, he has founded or co-founded 7 nonprofit northern New Mexico's, 7 nonprofits that were youth development driven. Those have included the Arts in the Schools program for the Española Public Schools and a charter school named La Tierra Montessori School of the Arts and Sciences. He was also very instrumental in opening in the development of the Española Pathways Shelter, the first ever facility in Española Valley for unhoused people with addiction disorders. To top that off, last week, Roger was one of 4 people nationally to be honored with a 2025 Dance Teacher Award for his decades of work in that field. Today, Roger will tell us the story of Moving Arts Española and its continuing inspiring work. It's all yours, Roger.
Good afternoon, I think it is now, just by like 30 seconds. What a beautiful ceremony this morning and space to be in. This building is gorgeous. It just makes you feel comfortable and beautiful and joyous. So thank you for inviting us. As Tyler said, in 2019, CNN Heroes selected our organization. You know, Heroes is never about one person, it's about the team. And so I wanted to start with this video because it's 3 minutes, but it gives a very clear understanding of where we serve and sort of the genesis of why. And then I'll revert to a more colloquial form of communication. So roll tape. Once that ignition is happening, then we can live.
loud bright colors. You see a child's face and spirit come to life. I don't need any more evidence. Would you like your class this morning? Many of our kids come to us traumatized. I just want to see them come on joy. That's what we say to them. Growing up with my parents from both on drugs, people would tell me, you're going to be a drug addict, you're going to be a couple, you're going to be worthless. I first met Roger when I was in elementary. He was teaching gymnastics. One day, I said, hey, come here, let's do a back flip. And I was like, alright. I do it like he says. I landed it. I'm just so filled with excitement because I'm like, wow, I didn't think I could do something like this. It just exploded this positive energy inside of me. It's made me feel like I can do so much more in my body, and so much more with my heart. I feel like there's so much untapped potential in the kids that I teach. That's what I want to do now too. This is a sanctuary for these kids. It is so satisfying to see the kids grow. Be prepared to bring your soul and your love to this things. You can feel a sense of calm and confidence. It's a little fire in there. And just feel it. That's really, in a nutshell, what Moving Arts is about. It's a safe vessel of love.
Thanks so much for rolling that tape. And thank you all for being here. It's just a real joy. My partner Salvador and I, speaking of teamwork, co-created Moving Arts. It was really a duet intended to serve and to create this space for young people in this region to have access to creativity. It was very simple in the beginning. We were working in the arts in the schools. It was a 10-year project. In 13 elementary schools, we provided school day integrated work with 75 artists in clay and drama and painting and music and dancing. It was a bit chaotic for some of the schools, but it was such a joyful space to be in. And as those years wound down and policies like No Child Left Behind really made it more and more difficult for us to do that work, we were pressed to create an after-school program with the Española schools, and that was really the beginning. I don't know, I haven't asked Sal lately, if we both knew what we were in for 18 years later. But I'll tell you, the service today was very inspirational. It spoke about finding your joy and understanding your why. And I think we found it through this program, because when you see children who are comfortable in their skin, who are willing to express and are able to be whole, that was enough for us really to find that sort of fueling of our hearts to know that this was the right pathway. Once we found our own space in partnership with the tribal community of Okewinge in an old casino building, well, we got to work, and that was 13 years ago. The charter school of the arts and sciences was kind of in the midpoint there. We said, you know, it's important that education be lifted up, that it become transformative, that become a space to actually ignite learning in human beings. Sadly, much of the state of education in our state and perhaps our nation is antithetical to that. It's really squeezing out the individuality and tamping down the spirit and forcing teachers and students to sort of become less than they can be. And I don't want to disparage too much, but I want to, particularly right now, it's so important that we provide spaces and places and opportunities for the human spirit to be lifted. Moving Arts is absolutely about the alchemy of body, mind, and spirit. We have some wonderful former students here. I'm staring at Aspen and Taryn, and I don't see our other lovely little student, Liam. I think he's making tortillas. But over the last, goodness gracious, 18 years since Moving Arts has been in place, we've reached more than 5,000 children in the Valley. And it's been such a joy. More than 100 have come back to actually give back. They say things like, when I was a kid, Moving Arts gave me this incredible opportunity to find my reason for living. Pretty profound for an after-school program. And now I want to work at Moving Arts and give back to ensure that the next generation can continue to do just that. And I think I echo Sal's tearful memory of every time a young person returns. It's just a beautiful gift. To know that they're well, to know that they have found a path of contribution through expression and creativity. Our ethos is really something we call art is medicine. The video describes how through the decade of the 80s and watching literally hundreds of my friends and colleagues and partners perish in the most tragic way. The AIDS pandemic took thousands and thousands of artists and vital young people in their 20s to a horrific death. And what that did for me, having survived, this is my 40th year alive, I'm very, very, very thankful each moment. It gave a sense of urgency, that there is little time to work, that this could all be over in moments. What can we do today? And I think that that ethos has pushed me to continue to inspire our team of 38 employees at Moving Arts, and currently about 325 beautiful children and families grace us each week. So art is medicine for me, as I said in the film, is this, whether you're going to be a Juilliard pianist or go into the opera or whatever, that's irrelevant. I think this notion that when one finds that quiet space to self-reflect, to look inward and understand your passion and your purpose, to gain those skills of critical thinking and problem solving, this sense of interdependence and teamwork, these are transferable skills for a life of contribution. And I think that's mostly what our students have taken away. You know, yes, some of them have become extraordinary artists, but the intention is to build a whole human who can think on their feet and interdepend. So art is medicine for us has become our mantra. And I want to share a story. A couple years ago, we got to Moving Arts. It's an after-school program primarily. We have some school day and Saturdays, but we arrived, you know, and I opened the door and I went into the art studio, and there was this little girl named Marisol, maybe 6. She had found painting as her thing. And there she was. She had the palette out and the paint. Her shoes were off. She had food. She had water. And she was working. And I said, Marisol, why did you come so early? I had to get here early. I begged my grandmother to get me here because Moving Arts is my home. It's where I belong. And I think at that moment, I thought back about my own life and how my parents and beautiful teachers that I was so lucky to have insisted that I would have the opportunity to open a book, to dance, to move, to do gymnastics, whatever it is. And I think that our children are aching for that experience. Why did we choose Española Nuevo Mexico? I'm not sure why. I'm an ancestral native. I came back 35 years ago from New York City and Los Angeles with all this incredible experience. And I think when I was finally well enough and there was medication to support my own health, I looked out in the landscape and I saw beautiful, incredible children with no opportunity. the opportunities that I had. So the sense of responsibility to ensure that, a painting circle or a drama class or clay could actually be available. Who would know that all these years later we would end up with Moving Arts, which has become a platform or a launch pad really for so many. Over the years, we've always built our philosophy and our practice on responding to needs. About 7 years ago, the kids were really hungry after school, and you could see they were just, and I'm an amateur chef, so we put a little pot of beans, and then suddenly it was like, oh my goodness, we better make a roaster, and then 2 roasters. And so today we have a state-of-the-art farm-to-table meal service with culinary training for young people. 4 high school interns are trained and serve about 600 meals a week to every family and every child that comes into the building. And I think when you literally nourish a human with the comfort of good food while they're coming out of a rigorous gymnastic class or going to ballet or picking up the violin, it's a beautiful, beautiful symphony of service that really sings in our hearts and allows us to continue to do the good work. We also have today, during the COVID pandemic, we invited a cohort of former students who were now 18, 22, 23, to do a leadership sort of training. And what came out most cogently was we asked several questions of them. When you were a child at Moving Arts, what was missing? What would have kept you from aging out of the program? Because we really wanted intentionally to include young adults. So we leaned on them and they said they said a lot, but the most cogent pieces were that their lives had been filled with trauma, violence, drug addiction, broken homes, loving grandparents raising them, but missing their families, their mother and fathers. That if they had had access to behavioral health services and ways to really heal from the inside this deep and layered sense of trauma, that would have helped. And also that work-based learning and in creative endeavor like filmmaking and culinary arts and learning to be a mentor in the arts to children and understand that circle of giving, which is so healing and intrinsic to the human being. So we developed programs, and today we have 24 interns on staff that are paid about $15 to $16 an hour. And to see them gain the professional skills and the tools to succeed anywhere in the world is probably the biggest investment. We knew Moving Arts was good for children, but now that we have this bridge into college and career readiness, we know that we're measuring even more. Speaking of measuring, in 2020, after the CNN Heroes, I was asked to run for public office. And at first I was just like, what? Why would I do that? And it took about 1.5 years of high-level politicians, the governor herself, the Speaker of the House, asking me to run. My mother was sick with cancer. She had a 20-year bout with just a horrific death, and she finally was ready to say goodbye. And I asked her, should I run? I won't be able to be with you. And she turned to me just instantly and said, son, you have been magical at anything you do. If you choose the path to become a political elected leader, it will be difficult, for sure, but you'll shine. Do what you need to do. She passed right after that, and 2 weeks before I was elected. My short tenure in the State House taught me a lot. It taught me that the oath actually means something powerful, that the notion of public service must emanate from your soul, and more like a social worker than a transactional political figure. I moved out, into the landscape, and my territory literally went from Velarde, Rio Arriba, all the way around through Santa Fe and Las Vegas and Mora, all the way to Clovis, all the way up to Raton, Cimarron, a massive territory, unpaid, on my own dime, moving through that territory of service. And what I learned is that we're a magnificent state. Our people are deserving. But for me, the best devotion and application I could apply is not in the roundhouse. It's back at ground zero, where we can measure how many children have eaten today, how many graduates are moving on, how many mentors are finding the same joy that we have found. And I think for me at 65, that's the best way to contribute. Of course, I learned a lot of the political ins and outs, the transactional nature of politics. And sadly, I don't want to be disparaging, but it's somewhat a waste of time and treasure to serve in that element for me. There are many worthy and powerful leaders, but for me, I needed something that wasn't so glacial, that takes forever for policies to come to fruition, for the allocation of dollars, which never seem to reach the driest places. And as I said earlier, the satisfaction of knowing that hundreds of families are finding the joy of creative living and giving is really why I live. The songs were beautiful. The chorus was gorgeous today, and I really enjoyed the sense of the simple message of really paying attention. That's what I took away, to who we are and why we were born and what it means to serve. One more era that was very meaningful and still is to me, it preceded the political area. Around 2017, a former homeless, former addict, Ralph Martinez, approached me. I was working in social services at that point and moving arts, and he said, you know, there's winter's coming and hundreds of homeless people are on the street. We have to try to do something. In the sense of urgency in his voice at 3 a.m. called me to action. And so 5 of us pulled together. There was a county employee and one of our alumni, actually, Christian Madrid, ended up over 5 years creating the first ever homeless shelter provision in Rio Arriba County. We had the best of intentions that through compassionate work and collaborative service, surely we could find a way to house those in need who were destitute, not to mention the trauma of the addicted, which, you know, the cohabitation, if you will, of those ills is very connected. Well, about the time that we founded the nonprofit and purchased a shopping center and stood up an operationalized Pathway Shelter, the epidemic of fentanyl just hit off the charts. And the whole paradigm of the unhoused and the addicted became untenable. As we see nationwide and across the globe, it's something that really hangs heavy in my heart, that we didn't quite succeed. We certainly haven't yet galvanized civic leaders to understand that it's more important to work as a team than to denigrate and point fingers and create more stigma for those who are suffering. But once again, after 5 years and the time in the roundhouse, my place, our place, is in beautiful service through the creative arts, and I hope that I will be remembered for that work. Today I lit a candle in closing. I lit a candle for our own home. We're in search of a home, and when I walked into this beautiful building, I almost broke out in tears because it is so lovely. The light, the space, the intention of your mission is clear in every square inch of this beautiful building. We need to raise about $3 million. We found a property in Española where we insist on service. That would include a 12.5-acre horse ranch. There's a rodeo barn of about 11,000 square feet that exists. And I can see the studios. I'm a manifester, and I believe that our children in Española in the Valley deserve the absolute best. They don't need the bar on the ground. They need the bar here and here so they can leap and climb and claim a future of promise. That's why we live. And so that's my prayer. I lit that candle, and we're going to reach that goal somehow. So, muchas gracias a todos. It's an honor to be with you in this gorgeous space. If you have any questions or thoughts, my partner Salvador, who's always very shy, but I'll tell you, we couldn't do the work without his extraordinary, steady, heart-centered, diligent leadership. Salvador, please stand and actually come up here because you need to say a few words. Por favor.
Thank you. I'm not good on speaking. All I can say is that these 18 years has been a labor of love. Seeing these children coming in with a big smile, with a big hope, accomplishing, learning intricate steps, hard drawings, learning something coming the next day. I made it, I have the step, I finished my drawing. It's what fuels us and what keeps us going. And growing up, and is what I didn't had a moving arts. So it's seeing these kids, it just keeps pushing us and pushing us to keep giving, to keep doing what we're doing, because the kids keep coming, and it just, the way all these youngsters flourish in the program, that's the why we do what we do. Thank you.
Thank you, Salvador. Truly, he never stops. It would not happen without your dedication. Thanks again.
So I will wander with the mic for anybody who has any questions for Roger, or you want to wait there so you can be recorded? Sure. We want to hear these marvelous answers you're going to give. So any questions or comments that people want to have?
Not a question or a comment, but a brief testimonial. When we first moved to the Valley years ago, we had this little girl we'd adopted with cerebral palsy who could barely use her fingers, which worked now quite beautifully, could barely walk because she couldn't bend her ankles. I met Roger and Sal one night, and Roger said, let's put her in dance. And I said, Roger, she can't dance. She has cerebral palsy. She can barely walk. I don't know if you remember, but she replied, everyone can dance. This child has danced for years under the tutelage of Sal and Roger. And it has been a beautiful thing to watch. And a few years later, a scared little 5-year-old girl got off a plane and became our daughter. Bravest little girl I'd ever met, but scared to death. Again, we walk into Moving Arts, and she becomes this beautiful, confident dancer like I'd never seen before. And she felt at home, and she felt loved, and she felt appreciated. And again, it was Moving Arts. And most of you know my son, who has a high level of autism, has a lot of trouble with pretty much everything. And I can't tell you how many times he has been in Moving Arts, decided to just walk away from class and do something else because his mind is somewhere else. Next thing I know, one of them is gently guiding him back to class. He gives him a hug and a kiss and rejoins his class. And he grew in so many ways at Moving Arts. I can't even, a lot of therapy has helped him, but Moving Arts has helped him the most.
And what an honor it's been to have a friendship with your family, to see them grow. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger and Sal, for being here today. And what a segue from the mental health awareness service with what you guys are doing too, and the work that you do for knowing that art helps mental health struggles immensely, right? So thank you guys for being a part of that work. I just wanted to know, with your campaign of getting this new home and the money, and what are the best ways that we can support you guys and your work, and what can we be doing here, raising money and all the things?
Well,
if you have ideas, please let us know, or where to donate and all the things.
Well, my grandmother and my mother taught me early that money is just a means of exchange, that the spirit and the prayer, the sense of visioning, is far more important if your intention is clear. So breathe with us and see that beautiful building. If it's the horse ranch right in the middle of Española, it would be divine. I can see it. I'm an artistic visionary, I guess. I can see that horse barn transforming. Our website is movingartsespañola.org. One can donate funding. One can get involved in volunteering. As the campaign really becomes clear exactly where we're headed, because there's a couple of tracks, we're not quite sure yet. There's financing with the bank, and there's a zoning glitch. If we can't zone from R6, which is residential, back to commercial, it's not a viable prospect, but the city's tap dancing as fast as they can to see if they could make that switch. So there are some hurdles, but good thoughts, prayers, and checks. If you're so inclined, send dollars. We need $3 million, really. Half of it is to purchase and half is to retrofit the spaces. And we did some math. I think it's 3,000 individuals at $1,000 each. Seems somehow doable. We just came from New York City, and we were in the Village, and I thought, I wonder what these apartments run for. It's like, average is $3 million for an apartment in New York City. I just was stunned. I said, my goodness, the world, there is possibility to find the pathway for us to realize our vision. And again, money's just a means of exchange. It's the spiritual content of one's intention that allows beauty to emerge. So that was a long-winded answer.
Any other questions, comments?
There's one here in the second row.
I'm just curious about what opportunities there are for volunteers.
Yes, we have such a wide range. We have culinary arts, so there's kitchen support. We have a film program where we have interns working on very high-level digital media. We have fashion design, there's sewing, there's drawing, there's painting, there's sculpture, 3D design. We have a gymnastics program with over 200 students. And thankfully, Louis up here, who's sadly closing the beautiful Los Alamos Academy of Gymnastics, is made available much of that equipment for us to repurpose for our children, and what a gift. Reception, we have a new program I didn't speak about, which is a juvenile justice program with the district attorney's office. It's called Pivot, providing innovative and vital opportunities for transformation. And it's really a prosecution-led, but pre-prosecution deflection of youth that do not belong in this pile. Literally, these are their words. We have this pile where police come into the schools, there's an infraction, and the child gets a felony or misdemeanor. Now they're on a pathway to incarceration. We have to find a way to deflect. So mentorship, there's behavioral health services. It's a whole case management wraparound services that centers in inclusion, that centers in art as medicine, because once you bring a child into that space, and the guitarra is important, or gymnastics, or culinary, or farming, they can find something that that begins to heal. It's not simple, but it's a big ask. So look at our website, movingartsespañola.org. We have about 18 classes. It's 16,000 square feet of space. We're in a former casino. There's a lot of upkeep. When we move to our forever home, we're going to need to move equipment. So if anybody has flatbeds or pickups or strong, strapping individuals that can come help us, the barn raising will need you, because we're going to make this happen. Yes?
So in listening to you speak and talking about the trauma that the children have been through, it seems to me, my thinking is that you're providing these projects which in and of themselves are very life-affirming, but you're also providing responsible adults who care about the children. So it seems like there's a merging of those two things.
Yes. Masterful mentorship is absolutely alive and well at Moving Arts. We have 38 employees. 12 of them are world accomplished artists in their own right, in guitar and vocal and ballet and flamenco. So they have an opportunity to look to an artist with reverence. They also have peer support, because there's so many youth that came to us at 2, because kids will stay 5, 8, 10, 12, 15 years with us. It is the biggest gift. They are the best ambassador, for really helping other young people find that sense of hope and connection that absolutely matters. So mentorship is a huge integral part of what we do. It's integral to the arts. You think about the old masters, you have to pass that baton. So it's inherent. Hope I answered your question.
Is your after-school program in the schools or at your facility?
It is at our facility, and it's there for a reason. We started, for the first 6 years, we were part of the Española Public Schools, because that's where the school-based programs emerged, so it made sense. They tore the school down, and we were kind of homeless, and the political winds didn't really want us in the school. I'll just stop there. So we moved on to found the charter school of the arts and sciences, which was a state charter feeding New Mexico School for the Arts, K-8. And we accepted children from the region on their own means to come to Moving Arts. Those that really were curious, wanted to discover, find a pathway, or if they knew what they loved, they could just begin studying. So, yeah.
So how is transportation done for the kids?
Transportation is absolutely on the parents. We have talked for years with the school district, and because of issues of safety and policy, they cannot allow school buses to bring kids as a drop-off to Moving Arts. I could never figure that one out, but it seems like a no-brainer. So really, parents come from 80 miles, 28 rural communities as far away as Cuesta, New Mexico. On Saturdays, we have students that come, Taos, TA, Los Alamos, Truchas, Santa Fe, and all the tiny frontier villages drive in, mostly with grandparents bringing their kids because, the stats of drug addiction and incarceration in Rio Arriba County is very high.
So I have a question and a suggestion.
Yes.
So my question is, you're kind of healing these communities that have some really enduring challenges through their children. And I'm curious how you're seeing that go back into the community and help people. So hold on to that for a second. Here's my suggestion, which you absolutely don't have to do, but it's a really interesting thought. Some of what you're talking about with art as being healing, as being love, as being medicine, I've just started to learn about kind of how that's happening in lowrider culture in that region, and how for a lot of the folks that, and this is based on someone else's research, I'm very early in this, how doing that instead of getting into drugs has helped a lot of folks, but also how the younger generations don't have a connection to it. And I'm curious if you've thought about having some folks teaching some of that detail work, which is incredible and really does have this healing and a sense of purpose. And also, it's a native tradition. It's really distinctive to this region. So that's my suggestion. But the question is, how is this feeding health back into the community?
Yeah, so great questions. And the first one is, our work is absolutely permeating the family unit, because when you have an intergenerationally impoverished family, maybe where drug addiction has been cyclical, and then you have this grandchild, say, just shining and finding better grades and focus in school and health and vision for their future, it transforms the entire family. They come to the performances, they come into moving arts. At first, they may be a little like, there's free food, you know. But soon, all of that is washed away, because the program is about love. It is about a devotion to the betterment of a human, regardless of their circumstance. So the stigma is washed away and filled with the building, as you see, is just, please come. Well, we're still there. I don't know, we're on a month to month, but come over and see what we do. You will be utterly moved to see grandparents and children studying, and the meal service. Come and eat with us. The food is really good. So Grandparents Raising Kids is an organization that we work very closely with through Las Cumbres Family Center. And just the work there, you know, it's very measurable, because we know that those families are being tracked and being returned and embedded really into the fabric of moving arts. There's a lot of work to do. We're not healing all the woes of the world, but it definitely is impacting and informing a new way, which oddly, and this links to your second question, the fabric of the assets of Rio Arriba and Española are about family and food and language and culture, the lowriders included. So it's like a reminder that these layers of sedimentary trauma can be chipped away to get to the bedrock, which is the heart and soul of the beautiful people in the valley who have been hurt and have a lot of wounds. So to answer your question, we absolutely see this moving through the family unit in the best of ways. We have a counterpart organization, the Española YMCA. There's a team up here, a counterpart on the hill. And they have for a long time done the lowrider work and the bikes and so we don't want to steal or move into that realm, although we share many students and parents. And of course, any chance we get, we perform at the festivals and the lowrider events. But there's certainly an opportunity to co-create the beautiful detailing and bring that back to life, because kids love cars, you know, and it is such a source of pride. Senator Leo Jaramillo he almost got it passed that we'd be the lowrider capital of the world. Maybe it'll happen with the next governor. But I appreciate the sentiment, because the Valley needs to hold on to really authentic ways to build resilience. You know, it's hard to live there in some ways, because things don't change very quickly. We don't see the schools improving. We don't see the numbers, and certainly the unhoused and the addicted is escalating. But once again, the families inspire us. Hope I answered your questions. Very good. Thank you.
I was already thinking what a wonderful thing it would be to schedule a tour for people from this congregation or this community to see your facility. Could we do that?
Absolutely. We could charter a bus tomorrow. No, just kidding. No. When donors or folks from Santa Fe that are curious actually cross the threshold, they are forever in our pocket, because they see 150 kids a night just sitting in joy. You know, there's not a lot of places in the world where that happens. And to have an old casino that with a lot of duct tape and glitter and love, we transformed into this glorious sanctuary, is a word that many of our alumni have referred, that without that space, they would not have survived. So please, grace us, we'll feed you. The meal service starts at about 3:30. If you want to come around 2 for kind of a private tour of the whole plant before the kids start arriving, have lunch with us, and just stay as long as you like. The doors close at 7. On Saturdays, we have about 170 gymnastic students. Thank you, Louie, over at Los Alamos School of Gymnastics. It's just filled with beautiful kids from 3 years old all the way up to 26. So, yeah, please come out.
Just to add to, what you were saying about what happened when you folks got the Pathway Shelter open in 2019, I remember we had Ralph Martinez come and speak around that time. And, what I remember was the estimate from just roaming the streets was that there was like 35 to 50 unhoused people. And, now the estimate is over 200. And what we've learned through the Interfaith Coalition is that it was the fentanyl wave that hit. It was COVID and people losing homes because of relatives who lost their homes. And it was several things happening together. It was the closing of affordable housing units there. And so the shelter, which was built for 20 people, is facing a community with 200 plus unhoused people. It's getting zero money from the city of Española, but it's being held to standards now that the city wants to say apply to how the shelter should be doing A and not doing B. The Interfaith Coalition is very passionately now trying to save the shelter. It's not perfect. It's not the whole answer. But just so that everybody knows that it's a really important thing, and it's going to be up for grabs on the 28th of this month when the City Council decides whether to allow the permit to remain or not. I don't know if you want to comment any more about that or not.
Yeah, it's a deeply political subject, sadly, when you think of the level of human suffering, that it would have to add this layer of turmoil superimposed on an already complicated scenario. My hope, altruistically, is that the City Council will allow the permit to move forward. I think it would be a political disaster for them to turn it away after we, created, yes, not perfect, but something. Presbyterian Hospital is doing probably the most right now with a detox center that's coming on board and triage, so that they're really actively creating a space for that. There are several other spaces. Darren's Place, which has a bigger facility, used to be a senior home center, was transformed into rehab space. If there could be, and this was our intention originally, an orchestrated, compassionate vision that holds the dignity of human beings as the highest pillar, and then creativity in solving the way to house and to treat and to move people to a place of dignity. That I will hold to my last breath, because God knows we need that more right now in every realm of our world, to remember, to include, to see yourself one step away from being unhoused. I mean, we are all vulnerable, and somehow this divide that they are the problem and we need to be kept from them is just, I guess I'm on a soapbox, but again, I think we can get there. People need to show up, people need to speak out, and people need to lend their love and their creativity. So thank you for the good work you do here with the Interfaith Coalition to that end.
Thank you. It's a lot of organizations in this county and in Española who are pulling together for exactly that vision that you just mentioned.
I think the county of Santa Fe could be useful. As you know, a lot of the land there is overlapping. And the county of Santa Fe is more equipped in every way to kind of think out of the box. And maybe there's a way to triangulate, in a way, take the pressure off the city and maybe show by example that we need to work as a team.
Any other questions, comments? Roger, we can't thank you enough. This has been fantastic.
Thank you all. What a joy.
Yeah, the kids did great. And I just want to invite everybody to the co-op for lunch if anybody wants to join us. So, yeah. Thank you.